Hey everybody, Sharon here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in 2020 My Country going for Racing Driver and Road Rage. These are going to be the two achievements dealing with the car minigame. So to play the car minigame, what you want to do is you want to make sure you build pretty much any building under the Industry tab. If you have been playing the story quests up to this point, you probably already know how this works. Basically, you're going to pop these buildings down somewhere, then you're going to try to complete their construction. Of course, you can always use the time skippers in order to save yourself a ton of time, and we should have a bunch of those thanks to the starting money that we have. But just make sure you get one of these buildings up, and then once you do, you can click on the building, and then you're going to notice there's going to be a set of car keys as an icon. Make sure you click on the car key, and that's basically going to allow you to add a vehicle to this building. Now, the first time you add a vehicle to a building, you're going to have to play this mandatory minigame. It's going to be a pretty simple minigame. Basically, you're trying to swipe these cars across the street to get past this intersection right here, and your goal is to try to get 3 of whatever car you are trying to get for the building. So again, these are going to have to be mandatory. So just try your best to get as many cars as you can across safely, and then once you get the 3 of the required car type, you are basically going to complete the minigame and then unlock your vehicle for that building. What's also going to happen is the game is going to give you an optional endless mode, which is going to pretty much give you an endless amount of cars to swipe, and pretty much the game is going to keep going until you get a car crash. Once you get a car crash, what's going to happen is any other cars still left on the board are going to also end up piling up in the middle of the intersection, and then once that's over, you should be good for the required part of the minigame. Just make sure you end things and then just return back to your country. Back to the topic of the 2 achievements. The first one is going to be Racing Driver for swiping 1,000 cars across the intersection safely, and the other one's going to be Road Rage for crashing 500 cars during the end game pileup. Both of these are going to be cumulative achievements that we can grind out very easily. What you want to do basically is you want to make sure you click on that same building and then make sure you click on the same car keys icon. What's going to happen is the game is going to allow you to buy additional vehicles up to 3 per building, and for the second and the third vehicle of any building, the game is going to basically put you in endless mode. This is going to be optional, as you do not have to play the minigame in order to unlock the second and third vehicle. But thankfully, in terms of trying to go for these 2 achievements, these additional optional mini games are going to allow us to constantly retry. So the basic strategy in order to go for both achievements as quickly as possible is to basically try as hard as you can to try to get as many vehicles across safely. Once you are at the point where you can't keep up with it, just make sure you let the vehicles crash into one another to get a big pileup. Then you are going to want to tap to restart, and that's basically going to put you in a fresh game, and you're just going to constantly play this until you get both achievements. You are probably going to get the Racing Driver achievement first. That's going to be the one for swiping 1,000 cars across the intersection safely. And the reason for that is because that's going to be the more effort involving of the 2 achievements. So make sure you try to do as well as you can in every mini game until you get the 1,000 cars across. Both are going to be very grindy, but you definitely want to make sure you knock this one out of the way so you can have an easier time of grinding out the other one. But you should be making progress towards both at the same time. It should take you about 20 minutes to a half hour to get this if you're starting from scratch, so a pretty big grind, but it is going to be doable in a single game if you keep restarting the game once you do fail. So make sure you do take advantage of this, as we are going to have to wait until we unlock newer industrial buildings later on. So just make sure you try to keep going for it, and then once you finally get your 1,000 cars across, you should be good for Racing Driver. That one's going to be for 140 gamer score. As soon as you get that one, thankfully you can start cutting back down on your effort to go for the other achievement, which is going to be the 500 crashes. All you have to do is just make sure you just idle the game, and then the cars are basically going to crash into each other. You aren't going to get as big of pileups because we aren't going so deep into the game, but thankfully we can just semi-idle. So just make sure you let the game play itself until you get a crash, then just make sure you restart, and then just keep having the cars hit each other until you finish your 500. So this one's also going to take quite a bit of time, but thankfully we can kind of play this semi-idling, and then once we finally get our 500 car crashes in, we should be good for the other achievement, which is going to be Road Rage. That one's going to be 160 gamer score, and then once we have both out of the way, we should be done for the car mini game. And that's all there is to it.